This article is actually quite enlightening. It's eye-opening and it kind of shows what the future is for XRP in Europe in terms of adoption, regulation, and it shows that it has a clearer and more optimistic future than even Bitcoin and definitely Ethereum and most other cryptocurrencies. So let's go through it quickly, and by the end of this video you will know what I mean. So this new document, XRP, will be covered under MiCA as a utility token. What are the implications of that? We shall find out as I go through the article really quickly. So in a significant confirmation that reinforces XRP's functional role within blockchain finance, new findings show that XRP will be classified under the European Union's market in crypto assets, that's MiCA, regulations, as a utility token. This designation not only bolsters Ripple's ongoing strategy around cross-border payments, but also clarifies XRP's regulatory standing within the EU, one of the most comprehensive jurisdictions for digital assets legislations globally. So if it's good enough for the EU, then it's good enough for pretty much anybody else. This development was recently highlighted by prominent analyst Smoke. I'm seeing a lot more Smoke analyses these days. He's making a lot of sense, and he's doing very well. Who shared document evidence supporting XRP's classification. His post, accompanied by visual materials and insightful commentary, underscores the growing clarity around XRP regulation positioning and broader market relevance. Okay, so MiCA defines utility tokens as digital assets that are intended to provide access to a good or service supplied by a user. In XRP's case, the token is not issued for speculative investment purposes, but is used as a means of value transmission, particularly within Ripple's cross-border payment solutions. And then you have the schematic diagram here provided by Smoke. Very good analysis. I'm going to leave a link to both Smoke's post on X and to this article so that you can have a better look, maybe read through some of these documents that he provided in microprint here. This perspective is reinforced by a commentary from Enoch Chung featuring a discussion on technology risks in financial systems. Chung noted that RippleNet and XRP do not act like traditional currencies or investment tokens. Rather, XRP operates like an interledger used to facilitate cross-border payments. If you look at Ripple in that context, it is more likely a utility coin, he stated, emphasizing XRP's role in transmitting information and value, not in serving as a speculative asset. Even though I would say a lot of people do speculate on it, that's why we have a retail market that trades it, but it's the intention apparently that counts. This aligns precisely with MiCA's interpretation, confirming that XRP does not fall into the asset referenced or e-money token categories that come with stricter compliance and reserve obligations. So that's really crucial. So it doesn't fall under the traditional currency or e-money category. Those other categories require a lot more stringent regulation. You have to provide a backing and reserve proofs and reserve obligations. A lot of those are not obliged with XRP. What that means is that a lot of companies are going to opt for XRP because of the more stringent regulations around it. Instead, its usage model meets the criteria of a utility token, allowing it to benefit from lighter regulatory requirements under the MiCA framework while remaining fully compliant. So compliance is going to be much easier for XRP than many other tokens, including Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ripple strategic modeling confirms utility use case. So further validation comes from Ripple strategic assumptions as shown in internal modeling shared in a slide presentation titled Key Assumptions. Ripple approached XRP with more of a utility token framework, calculating its long-term network value using utility-based metrics. This is one of the reasons why sometimes some people would express the fact that XRP is not following the usual demand and supply curve, the usual market cap to price equation that we're used to with all of these other currencies that are monetary based, e-money, e-currencies, etc. XRP does follow sort of its own bespoke calculation that a lot of people have demonstrated even in YouTube videos. The document outlines critical drivers such as a total global cross-border payment volume estimated at $155 trillion in 2018. That's about half of the US deficit. just for perspective. So XRP's velocity, Ripple's market share, and the incremental benefit of using XRP versus traditional methods. These inputs serve to demonstrate how XRP's value accrues not through market speculation, but through transactional utility and efficiency gains. So as you can see, this is a reason why sometimes we hear all this big news, people buy and sell XRP, and everyone wonders why the price isn't skyrocketing in response. And look, truth be told, when the utility gates open, that's when we're going to see the price respond significantly to real-world asset tokenization, to on-demand liquidity, pipeline management, supply chain management, cross-border payments, etc., etc., etc. Ripple explicitly states that XRP incremental value is tied to the aggregate incremental value of XRP needed to support the volume of transactions. Okay, that's what I kind of just stated, across its network. This transactional perspective is a hallmark of utility tokens and further aligns XRP with MiCA's framework. So again, for people who don't truly understand that, the XRP price is going to go into the ballistic era when the utility floodgates open, right? There is obviously FOMO in the markets. There's only a little bit that can do. But when the frenzy begins, the tokenization begins, and the actual utility of this trans-ledger token starts, the price has to respond to deal with the traffic. And it's going to be a huge amount of traffic. And some people are finally understanding this, which is why companies like Vivo Power, like Weebus, are making their move now before it's too late. Because when this stuff happens, it's just going to go up vertically. It's not going to give anybody any chance to accrue or do any of that. This is why, not financial advice, do your own research. Once I realized this a few months ago, I started just buying every day, little bits, as much as I could afford. And here we are. One day, the switch is going to actually truly turn, and the traffic, it's going to be like a dam that opens, and all of a sudden, the traffic comes, and the price just adjusts, and everyone will be wondering what's happening. All of these haters, all of these people leaving weird comments are just going to be in utter disbelief. And then, of course, they're going to go in and buy when the price hits $10. Anyway, so implications for XRP holders and Ripple's global operations. The confirmation of XRP utility classification on the MiCA has important implications. First, it legitimizes XRP's regulatory status in one of the most forward-thinking legal jurisdictions globally. This clarity could encourage increased adoption across Europe, especially among institutional players that require regulatory certainty before integrating crypto solutions. Second, it could position Ripple and XRP as compliant market leaders ahead of any other project that still face legal ambiguity. As regulatory framework tighten globally, this early alignment with MiCA provides Ripple with a competitive advantage and demonstrates its proactive approach to regulations. Again, the time is coming when there's going to be a regulatory clamp down, and basically all of these other tokens that are enjoying their freedom at the moment, not being scrutinized, not being persecuted by, the SEC or any other regulatory body around the world, doing their little pumps here and there, while Ripple and the XRP ledger and XRP are sort of in the background doing the hard work, doing the collaborations, dotting their I's, crossing their T's, making sure that they're legally sanctioned, they're licensed, they're well regulated. When this clampdown comes, they're going to basically float to the top, and they're going to be one of the only ones that are left. Lastly, it sends a message to other jurisdictions, including the United States, where XRP has faced legal hurdles. The EU's decision to treat XRP as a utility token, backed by sound rationale and usage-based classification, could influence how other regulators assess the token's functionality and legal standing. So this is saying that, even though in the United States, I think XRP is doing well and the regulators and the legal people have turned a better page concerning Ripple and XRP, there's more legitimacy to be earned by a respected body as MiCA and, entity like Europe, turning a favorable eye to XRP and Ripple after such stringent analyses and regulatory scrutiny. Not financial advice, do your own research, but we are in for some fun and games.